Breaking news into CBS Sports HQ, Caitlin Clark took to social media to announce that her season is over. Clark hasn't played since July 15th after suffering a groin injury. She was limited to just 13 games this season. The Fever are 13-15 without her this year and just a game and a half ahead of the Sparks for that final playoff spot.
In every sport, a generational talent eventually comes along. Someone who doesn't just play the game, but completely transforms it. Michael Jordan turned a fading NBA into a global powerhouse. Serena Williams redefined dominance in women's tennis. Ronda Rousey made the world watch women's MMA. These athletes don't just win, they shift the culture. In the WNBA, that shift came in the form of Caitlin Clark. From day one, Caitlin didn't just play, she elevated the entire league. Ratings broke records, merch flew off shelves. People who had never watched a WNBA game before were suddenly locked in. It finally felt like the league had found its breakthrough moment, but then things got weird. Instead of celebrating her, the league hesitated, delayed awards, let players take shots at her, literally and figuratively, ignored milestones, downplayed her impact. The same league that had been begging for attention was now pushing away the one person bringing it in. Why? This isn't just a story about basketball, it's a story about pride, politics, and what might be the biggest fumble in sports history. Because if Caitlin Clark walks away, the WNBA might never recover. Caitlin Clark didn't just show up in the WNBA, she detonated into it. From the very first game, she wasn't just a promising rookie, she was a cultural event. Every arena she stepped into was packed. Every highlight she created went viral. Her presence alone was boosting ticket sales, spiking ratings, and bringing national headlines to a league that had spent years fighting for visibility. But it wasn't just the hype, it was the game. Her handles, her court vision, her fearless deep threes from Steph Curry range. She was putting on a show every night, and people couldn't look away. Caitlin didn't just play basketball. She made it look easy, made it look fun, and made it look important. And in a league that had often struggled to get casual fans to care, that kind of impact was priceless. Veteran NBA fans who'd watched stars rise for decades were saying the same thing. They had never seen one player shift an entire league's energy this fast. The buzz around her was real, and it wasn't just about her talent, it was about timing. The WNBA needed a hero, a draw, a reason for sponsors, networks, and fans to pay attention. And Caitlin Clark gave them all of that on day one, but strangely, while the world was watching her rise, the league itself seemed quiet, distant, cautious. Instead of celebrating their golden goose, the WNBA seemed unsure what to do with her. The silence became noticeable, then uncomfortable, and before long, it felt like something deeper was going on. Something that hinted at jealousy, politics, or an unwillingness to embrace change. Because if this was the beginning of a new era, why did it feel like the league was already pulling back? What came next would make that silence even louder and start a controversy the WNBA couldn't ignore. In sports and in business, there's one golden rule. When you finally get something valuable, you protect it, you promote it, you build around it, you don't question the blessing, you maximize it. But the WNBA, they're doing the exact opposite. Caitlin Clark showed up with everything the league had been begging for: talent, marketability, media attention, and an army of loyal fans ready to follow her every move. She was the type of player execs dream about. A walking headline, a guaranteed ratings boost, a long-term investment that could grow the brand for the next decade. And somehow, the league started fumbling the bag. Instead of celebrating her wins, they hesitated. Instead of giving her the spotlight, they let the jealousy grow. Instead of leaning into the moment, they tried to mute it. Whether it was from fear of favoritism, pressure from veteran players, or just poor leadership, one thing became obvious. The WNBA didn't know how to handle success when it finally arrived in the form of a 22-year-old rookie from Iowa. We've seen this kind of mistake before. In the NBA, guys like Nerlens Noel and Dennis Schroeder fumbled life-changing contracts by betting on the wrong moment. But this wasn't just a bad financial decision. This was a cultural misstep, because the WNBA didn't just fumble a contract, they risked fumbling the future. They finally had their Jordan, their Serena, their Tiger Woods, and instead of lifting her up, they started getting weirdly quiet, passive, maybe even resentful, and it all came to a head in one of the most bizarre, tone-deaf moments in league history, when the awards season rolled around and Caitlin Clark's name was nowhere to be found. By the time the regular season ended, it was obvious. Caitlin Clark wasn't just the top rookie, she was a league changer. Her stats were ridiculous, her presence electrified every arena, and she brought in millions of new eyes to a league that had long struggled to stay relevant. Everyone, fans, analysts, even her critics, expected the Rookie of the Year announcement to be automatic, but instead, the WNBA went silent. On September 22nd, Aja Wilson was crowned MVP, a well-deserved honor, no surprise. But when the next few days passed without Caitlin's name being mentioned, people started paying attention. Then came Most Improved Player, then Defensive Player of the Year, still nothing. At one point, the league even announced the Sportsmanship Award before acknowledging the player who had just delivered their highest viewership in history. Fans were confused at first, then annoyed. The internet lit up with questions. What are they waiting for? Why are they stalling? Some took it as a joke, others saw it as flat-out disrespect. One comment even said, "Posting every other award but hiding your Rookie of the Year is exactly why this league stays irrelevant." It was hard to argue. This wasn't just a delay, it felt like a statement. Finally, on October 3rd, after nearly 2 weeks of awkward silence, the league made it official. Caitlin Clark was named Rookie of the Year, but the announcement was quiet, dry, and shockingly low energy. No promo video, no media blitz, no league-wide celebration. It was almost like they wanted to move on before anyone noticed. And then came the twist that made it worse. Caitlin hadn't won unanimously. Out of 60+ votes, one person gave their vote to Angel Reese, denying Caitlin the clean sweep everyone knew she deserved. Just one vote, but it changed the tone completely. Instead of honoring a historic season, it turned the moment into a controversy. Fans were stunned, some were furious, and others were starting to ask an even deeper question. Is this personal? Caitlin Clark's Rookie of the Year win should have been a league-wide celebration. She broke records, brought millions of new viewers to the sport, and carried her team from the bottom of the standings into playoff contention, all as a first-year player. But instead of honoring that moment, the WNBA let it get overshadowed by one baffling detail. She wasn't a unanimous selection. Out of over 60 voters, one person cast their vote for Angel Reese, a player Caitlin outperformed in nearly every statistical category: points per game, assists, steals, shooting percentages, even blocks. Caitlin led across the board. The only category Angel had an edge in was rebounding, and even that came with a caveat. She often stayed in the game during blowouts to grab extra boards, and many of her rebounds came from her own missed shots. To make things even more lopsided, Caitlin's team finished third in the conference. Angel's team finished dead last. Caitlin beat Angel head-to-head in 3 out of 4 regular season games. The gap between them wasn't just noticeable, it was massive. Yet somehow, someone still decided to throw a vote Angel's way, knowing it would ruin Caitlin's chance at a unanimous win. The reaction was instant. Fans called it what it was, a slap in the face. One comment summed it up perfectly: jealousy is a bitter perfume. Others demanded to know who made the vote. Some accused the league of orchestrating the snub on purpose to avoid making it all about Caitlin, but the damage was already done. Instead of celebrating the greatest rookie season in league history, the WNBA had turned the moment into another controversy. And that's the problem. Every time Caitlin gives the league a reason to shine, someone steps in to dim the lights. Whether it's fellow players throwing shade, fans downplaying her success, or now this, a unanimous win being denied for no good reason. It's becoming clear that this isn't about basketball anymore. It's personal, and if the league keeps letting these moments happen, they might not realize what they've lost until it's too late. Let's stop pretending this can't happen, because it absolutely can. What if Caitlin Clark decides she's had enough? Enough of the cheap shots on the court, enough of the subtle jabs and cold shoulders, enough of being disrespected, snubbed, and barely protected by a league that should be building statues in her honor. What happens if she wakes up one day and realizes she doesn't need the WNBA? Because that's the truth, she doesn't. We've already seen it before. Players like Gabby Williams, Diana Taurasi, and Elizabeth Cambage have all left to play overseas, not just for more money, but for more respect. Caitlin wouldn't be the first, but she'd definitely be the most impactful. And unlike the others, she wouldn't be leaving for a paycheck. She'd be leaving out of principle. Imagine the headlines: Caitlin Clark leaves WNBA. Imagine the silence in those arenas. The ratings drop, the outrage, the scrambling from league executives who finally realized they fumbled the one thing keeping them relevant. It would be a disaster, and it would be their fault. The warning signs are already there. She's been shoved, targeted, taunted, and treated like a threat by her own peers. The league has allowed it all to happen. On top of that, they've downplayed her accomplishments, left her off the Olympic roster, and robbed her of a unanimous Rookie of the Year title. That's not just bad management, that's a clear message. Whether intentional or not, the message is this: you're not as welcome here as you think you are. And when a superstar feels unwanted, they don't beg to stay, they walk. If Caitlin Clark ever decides to leave, it won't be because she couldn't make it. It'll be because she wasn't protected while she did. Let's be crystal clear. Caitlin Clark does not need the WNBA, but the WNBA. They need Caitlin Clark more than they've ever needed any player in the league's entire history. In her rookie season, Caitlin brought in numbers the WNBA had never seen. Her first playoff game drew 1.8 million viewers. The second one, over 2.1 million. To put that into perspective, that's higher than the average viewership of any WNBA finals ever, not just in recent years, in the league's entire existence. She didn't just break records, she shattered every barrier the WNBA had been trying to push through for the last 25 years. She was the reason sponsors picked up the phone, the reason casual fans tuned in, the reason people who never watched women's basketball started caring. And somehow, despite all of that, the league continues to treat her like she's just another player on the roster. Let's not forget, this is the same WNBA that's been begging for funding, fighting for visibility, and relying on donations and NBA subsidies just to stay afloat. Kyrie Irving had to step in with financial help during the pandemic. Players constantly speak out about the pay gap, the travel issues, the lack of support. But when the one person who could change all of that shows up, they hesitate, they play it safe, or worse, they get defensive. Instead of building around her, they're trying to balance the spotlight. Instead of protecting her, they're letting her take hits. And instead of treating her like the league-defining star she is, they're acting like they don't want her to outshine anyone else. But here's the uncomfortable truth. No one else is shining like Caitlin, and if she walked away tomorrow, the league would feel it immediately. Ticket sales would drop, viewership would sink, media attention would fade, because like it or not, she's the engine right now. And the longer the WNBA pretends that isn't the case, the closer they get to losing the very thing keeping them relevant. If you've been following the WNBA this season, you've probably heard it 100 times that it's not just Caitlin, it's Angel too. And that's exactly the narrative the league and certain players keep pushing, that Caitlin Clark isn't the only reason people are watching, that Angel Reese deserves just as much credit. But let's be real, do the numbers actually back that up? Angel Reese is a solid player, no one's denying that, but when you put her stats side by side with Caitlin's, the gap is undeniable. Caitlin averaged more points, more assists, more steals, a higher shooting percentage across the board, and even more blocks. The only category Angel led in was rebounds, and even that's inflated. A large chunk of her rebounds come from her own missed shots, and she often stays in the game during blowouts to pad her stats. Then there's team performance. Caitlin led Indiana from the bottom of the standings into the playoff picture. Angel's team, dead last. Caitlin went 3-1 against Angel in regular season matchups, and the eye test, not even close. Caitlin's style of play, her deep threes, court vision, and offensive command, and is what's packing arenas. Meanwhile, Angel plays close to the rim, missing over 50% of her shots inside 10 feet. Yet despite all that, Angel continues to position herself as Caitlin's equal, or even her rival. She's gone on record saying people tune into the WNBA because of her too. She's leaned into the villain role, played up the drama, and often throws subtle jabs in interviews and online. That tension might make for good headlines, but it also fuels a dangerous narrative, one that tries to diminish Caitlin's impact in the name of balance. Here's the truth, fans aren't showing up because of drama, they're showing up because of dominance. They want to watch greatness, and right now that greatness is coming from one player, not two. The league can try to play both sides, but if they keep pretending this rivalry is equal, they're gonna end up dragging their star down just to force a storyline that isn't real. In business, when you're handed a golden egg, you don't question it, you don't try to humble it, you protect it, you invest in it, you let it grow into something bigger than you imagined, because that's how legacies are built. Caitlin Clark is that golden egg. She's the player the WNBA spent 25 years praying for, the one who broke through the noise, brought in new fans, and made women's basketball a national conversation again. But instead of protecting her, the league let her be targeted. Instead of amplifying her, they delayed her shine. And instead of celebrating her with the respect she earned, they let one petty vote turn a historic season into a controversy. They're fumbling it, badly. And if Caitlin Clark ever decides she's had enough, this won't just be a missed opportunity, it'll be the biggest fumble in sports history. Because the truth is, Caitlin Clark doesn't need the WNBA to be great, but the WNBA might not survive without her. If you agree, or even if you don't, let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think the league is doing right? What are they doing wrong? And if you were in Caitlin's shoes, would you stay? Hit that like button if you made it this far, subscribe if you want more unfiltered takes like this, and I'll catch you in the next one.